Hello, amateurs, and welcome back to our Rugby World Cup series. And I've got Elko with me again today. Elko, how are you?
ATT, I am good. Looking forward to another big weekend. Will it be as big as last weekend?
We shall see. Talking of last weekend, we've done our quarterfinal review. That's out there on YouTube. It's out there in the podcast stream to go and have a look at that if you haven't already to see what we made of those epic quarterfinals. Now, moving on to this week, the weather's changed here in France. It's grey, it's rainy, it's cold. You remember some of the previous episodes when I've been like in a t-shirt or a vest, and I've had to have doors open in the van to keep myself cold. And now I'm a hoodie, and it's freezing. And we got some of the worst World Cup semi-finals coming up that anybody's ever expected. Elko, why should I even bother watching?
Well, I mean, it might play into some teams' tactics, maybe. I don't know, depending on what happens. But I've been dying for a bit of a change of weather, to be honest with you. But yeah, unfortunately, the team that it might suit are playing against a very big pack. But let's see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we've talked about injuries throughout the competition, and there haven't been very many, really. And in fact, I can't think of too many that are really going to affect these teams this weekend, certainly not in the last couple of weeks, anyway. Why do you think that is, maybe?
um, I guess with my conditioning hat on, I just think the sports science and the way they can the strength and conditioning and the physios and the heads of performance can almost anticipate when someone might be getting injured, data they have. I think it's I suppose a case in point would be the Irish squad. You're not seeing that many injuries in games as such, but you'll see someone maybe pull out, and it's a precautionary. Henshaw being one, Earls being another. So I just think that the sports science is at such a level now that they can anticipate. But also, then that most teams have had a big block of pre-season. They're not coming off the back of the season by the Southern Hemisphere, but even those guys, they had a limited championship this year and didn't play as many games as you might think. So I think it's a combination of the teams being so well prepared, so well conditioned, almost like racehorses, and then you wrap all that around with the preseason and what the preparation that's got into it. It's really good.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, let's look at these semi-finals, starting with Friday, New Zealand versus Argentina, and we'll kick off just with a bit of selection. So just a couple of changes for the Kiwis. Sam Whitelock in for Brody Retallick, and Mark Talea back in on the left wing following his, naughty step for last week. Let's talk about Whitelock in particular. Why do you think they've put him back in and Retallick to the bench?
Well, I didn't think Retallick had a bad game, so I can only presume they're rotating and they're looking at all the data. It was a pretty big shift on Saturday night for Retallick, so presumably that they've got some kind of inkling in there. Um, or maybe I know that the guys are very busy and they've got to take a lot in. So certain teams will have captains of lineouts or leaders of lineouts, and Whitelock might have been tasked before the tournament with looking at England's lineout, and he's the guy that's going to go and take that on in terms of attacking it where to call and then reading what England are going to do. So maybe one or two of those. I didn't think Retallick did anything wrong.
No, you mean Argentina? You mean
Obviously, what
Argentina, right?
Sorry, Argentina. Sorry, yeah, not England. Wrong game, wrong game. Well, then they've definitely got it wrong if he's in for that. Sorry, excuse me. So yeah, he was tasked for having a look at the Pumas, but yeah, I don't think it's on form. It's going to be a combination of one of those two things.
Yeah, they're both getting on a little bit, aren't they? Particularly Whitelock. So I'd imagine sharing that workload is probably a sensible option. And of course, they're both still very good players. So the difference between them is minimal, really. Um,
Yeah,
how how do Argentina win this game? Everybody's writing them off. They don't think they've got a chance in hell. How do they win this game?
been thinking about this. So part of me thinks they have to be really clinical and take points when they're on and play their strengths. But I don't think they're going to win that way because they haven't done in the past while. They got absolutely hammered in the summer in July. They were 31-0 down at half time, and New Zealand finished them off 41-12. Look, I would imagine in Argentina's mind, in Czech's mind, must be what did Saturday night take out in New Zealand, and are they going to be drained both emotionally and physically? And it's a semi-final. Maybe they just got to throw all out and run a lot more, and really take it to the All Blacks. I think that's the way I would go. Ireland did that and couldn't pull it off, and lots of stuff this week in hindsight. Could Ireland have Sexton taken more points? I think we had 5 3-pointers on, and we went to the corner. What will Argentina do in that stage with Boffelli kicking so well? So it's going to be a combination of knowing when they've got New Zealand on the rack, if they get into those circumstances, what do they do? Having a feel of the crowd, like we spoke about, what did South Africa did? They took that scrum instead of the points, and just really feeling that. And they've got some really good experienced heads up front that might be able to help with that. But I think it's an incredibly tough task, I think, for Argentina. I think mentally they know New Zealand have had the better of them recently, and that's tough going in. But look, semi-final, they're in it. Throw caution to the wind and give it a massive crack.
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm going to pick up on that you said there is the crowd. I think Argentina's biggest chance is to play some, really exciting rugby, get the crowd behind them, because those Argentina fans, and it will be the neutrals as well, I'm sure, on Friday night, will be rooting for them. And if they can get that stadium up and ride that momentum, then I would say that is their kind of route to winning this game. And I mean, the other thing as well, you mentioned there, New Zealand, it's going to be tough for them, I think. I think they put a huge amount of mental energy into that Ireland game. I think they were personally, offended by the way Ireland went down there and beat them. And I think they've had that revenge thing on their minds for a long time. And when you have that, it's very difficult to get anywhere near that again the following week. So I don't think this is as, one-sided a semi-final as a lot of people are saying. I do still think New Zealand will win. I feel like they will still win, but I think it could be a lot closer.
Yeah, and we saw that in the last World Cup when England took New Zealand to the cleaners and weren't able to back it up the next week, because that was their final. And all the talk coming out of the New Zealand camp after the game and before with Ireland was that was their final. It was 1 of 1. And yeah, I agree. We've both been in teams where it's difficult when you've had a huge performance the week before. What are your motivators? But then you've just got to put your professional hat on, and I'm presuming that New Zealand will know certain aspects of the game that they have to attack to take away from Argentina, and where their weaknesses are, and just really play a numbers game. But I suspect we'll see some, knowing them and knowing how they're playing at the moment. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they're still on fire, to be honest with you. I think too many people have doubted them already, and I'm not going to fall into that trap again of doubting how good a nation of players they are. They're just specimens and incredible players. So I think it's going to be very difficult for Argentina.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that impresses me most about every New Zealand team really is how world-class their absolute basics are. They're 3-on-2s. They never miss them. Like, they get them right almost every time. It feels that way anyway. So when there's an opportunity to score, they've just got players who make sure that happens. And they don't need to dominate territory. They don't need to dominate possession, because they know that when they get in those areas and they get the chances, they're going to take them the vast majority of the time. So I see them doing that again. It's just whether Argentina can get the swell of the crowd and sort of just get control of the game for long enough periods, I think.
Yeah, and hopefully it's lashing rain and there's a massive wind, and then it changes at half time and Argentina are up by 12. I don't know, but I think it's safe to say for both games, probably if both teams play a 10 out of 10, or all 4 teams play a 10 out of 10, you kind of know who's going to win that game. I think someone who's going to have to play a 7 out of 10 and the other team's going to have to play absolutely outstandingly well to get the result. But these things happen, we've seen it before.
Yeah, and it is due to be raining in Paris on Friday night, as the current forecast says. Fabulous. So time will tell. Now then, on to Saturday. And
are we giving a prediction?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to say New Zealand, and it will be 12 plus points.
I'm going to say New Zealand, and I think it will be within a score right towards the end, but they'll win by 9.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a bit closer than you, I think. Right, so Saturday, England versus South Africa. Now, there are some very interesting selections here. Not on the South African side. They've picked exactly the same 23, I think, as last week. But for England, in comes Joe Marler for Ellis Genge. In comes George Martin for Ollie Chessum. And Freddie Steward returns at fullback for Marcus Smith, who's out of the 23 altogether. Now, let's start at the very front of that. Joe Marler, why is he in? Why is he starting?
Scrummaging power. I think he's got to start, and then give them a platform to do something with. And then you've got Genge, who was outstanding last weekend and has been, to come on as a what's the equivalent of an English bomb squad? We don't say finishers anymore now. Eddie's gone. Whatever it is, we England have got I've got a decent bench there to come on. I think they've got to take them up front. I actually thought the South African selection was really interesting. The fact he hasn't changed it, which is wild. I thought, particularly, I don't know if you saw his press conference the day before yesterday, where he was asked what team he thought England would pick, and he had it all written out, and he selected the England team. Now, he wasn't right in quite a few positions, but still, Rassie doing Rassie things, which I thought was a bit of mind games. But I think, Marler, we're both massive fans of Marler, having worked with him, and we know what he can do. And my only fear is that they may well go after him in the scrum, if they know he's coming in as a sort of a statement piece from Borthwick, then they may well go for him, and we'll have to see how he reacts to that. But an interesting one from Borthwick. I think we know what Borthwick's going to do in terms of the way Leicester have played previously. I don't see anything happening different, than a selection would certainly indicate he's not going to suddenly play like the Portuguese and throw it around.
No, yeah. So with Marler, I agree. Obviously, it's very much scrummaging, and I think this is just part of a policy or a tactic for this game, which is they want to be very much in the game within a score at 60 minutes. And if your scrum gets destroyed in the first half, then it's very difficult to get a foothold in the game. So Marler's in for that reason, I'm certain. Now then, George Martin for Ollie Chessum. I don't think anybody would have predicted this. And I saw on Twitter today that actually they are almost exactly the same size in terms of height and weight. So it's not necessarily a big heavy one for a taller, lankier one. They're basically the same, really. So what do you think?
I think it is telling me that Borthwick wants to make this a complete shit fight, and make it very abrasive up front, and I think Martin gives you that, having watched him last season. I think he's a brilliant player. He's very good around the breakdown. He's a real nose as well. It could be that Chessum's, he played exceptionally well again last week, and maybe again they're looking at data in terms of rotating. They weren't going to drop their line-out king in their other row there. So it is an interesting one. I would have thought Chessum was bigger. That's really interesting that they're exactly the same, or pretty much. So it's not for any kind of weight issue. I think George is a bit more abrasive, maybe. I don't know, maybe more in the breakdown, maybe looking to get a few more steals and compete there. But it'd be interesting to see. Again, maybe they're looking at the impact off the bench as well. And do you know what side Martin scrummages on? Maybe they're looking to solidify. Maybe they feel he's a better high-head scrummager. I don't know, but an interesting call for sure.
Yeah, and the last one I think almost everybody would have predicted is that Freddie Steward comes back in, and I think this is more for retrieving our own kicks. I think this is we're going to kick to contest a lot, and I think we're going to use Steward to go and try and get the ball back. I see England kicking a hell of a lot on Saturday night
Well, you know, well, you don't know that Marcus is out.
with
HIA,
a yeah, I did.
HIA.
Yeah, I heard
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Okay. So he failed. I think I don't think it would have been a call to put him on the bench ahead of who's there, unless they're really going for well to World Cup semi final. Maybe they would have done so, but
Mhm.
yeah, they Razzie I think was trying to talk. Um, was brought that up in his press conference around what they do around Stewart and Smith, and he hoped kind of I think that Stewart was playing because of the X factor of Marcus. So whether there's been some mind games played there, we'll never know. But yeah, I think looking at potentially how South Africa might play this game, because I think they'll be thinking about next week or the week after this week. They may want to try and save some energy in the way they play after Sunday night, and we may well see two teams doing quite a lot of box kicking and chasing and putting pressure on that way. And I think Stewart's has got to start if that's the case, because I think Marcus would have got absolutely belted. Um, Interesting.
Yeah, indeed. How do you see South Africa's energy? Because they've had two huge games now in this World Cup.
So,
Um,
yeah.
two huge games, one against Ireland, which they lost, and one against France, which they won. So that's two massive dumps of energy, dumps of yeah, emotional charge. How do they get back up for this game?
It's huge, isn't it? And that's why I was surprised that he hasn't rotated more, or anything. He hasn't made any changes. So he's obviously again they'll have all the data. They'll understand what that data is telling them. It might they might rue it. They may have they may be disrespecting England a little bit by not making a few changes. I can only imagine there's some massively tired bodies in there. There just must be. Um, and it's a short turnaround as well, right? They played Sunday night and then they're playing a day earlier, so it's only a few hours, but still. Yeah, again, I think England have got I think England have got a bigger chance than Argentina have. Um, I just think that there's more weapons in there, and we've seen when England can get some ball, they can play some good stuff, and we also know that when it's tight and they're down to 14, they can go down and do kick some drop goals. And again, Razzie was bringing all this up in his press conference, going, reference that, saying that we think that they're probably going to do the same thing and try and do what Yanni De Beer did many years ago, and just kick a load of drop goals, which they could do. And if SA are tired physically and emotionally and they feel a bit drained, then if England are, sometimes that's hard to come back, and no matter how hard you try, you're just not on a level with the opposite team. If I was England, I'd be absolutely gagging to play this game. I think they've got a big chance, and if they can make it very competitive up front, get a platform, I think they could do something, and maybe there's a chance of an upset for sure, especially if it's raining.
Yeah, which it might well be. I think it's touch and go for Saturday night rain, but it could well be as well. My other key factor, I think, for England winning this game is that I think the South African reserve props are much better scrummagers than England's. So we're going to need to make almost no handling errors, I would say, in the last half an hour. And hopefully South Africa don't either, because they'll quite happily have a scrum, I'm sure. I really think that will be a key factor in the game, which is why I was slightly intrigued with the propping selection. I thought maybe he might pick Will Stewart because I think he's a stronger scrummager than Sinclair has been for a while, I would say. But it is what it is. But I think we're gonna the scrum towards the end of the game could be a real key factor.
That's a really good point, actually, because he's picked a he's picked an impact bench, hasn't he? In terms of it looks like they're going to turn it on, try and as you said, be in the game at 60 minutes, and then try and turn. Forward comes on. They have two playmakers to start to play some wider ball. You've got Genge and Sinclair who are ball players, but that goes all out the window if you're getting scrummed off the park, right?
Yes, you're right. It does all go out the window if you're getting scrummed off the park. It's people say the scrum's been depowered in the modern game. I don't think that's true. It's not the same as what it was,
No.
but it's still an absolutely crucial factor.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think it's as crucial as ever. I don't think I think that's madness to say that. We saw that on the weekend with Ireland. You know, if you can deprive the other team or get penalties, you know, it's a perfect entry into the other person's half, and that's when we see tries, right? So um, it's massive. And I think in that last, because the games are so physical demanding now, that last sort of 20 minutes, you know, that's why we've seen the bomb squad. That's why they've been doing it. Is you can when the scrum goes, it goes. It really, you know, teams go back, they give away penalties. Mentally, that's just kills the game for the other team. It takes momentum away. It drains them. I mean, again, I hate to keep going on about the madman, but Razzie was talking again about taking the scrum for the mark, and he said it was all about, look, we want to take it out of the other team's legs because we know we've got a better bench. You know, we want to get to 60 minutes, and we want the other team to have had to do a load of scrums on our ball. So it's definitely a massive weapon in the game, probably more cumulative than like it used to be when we were playing. Um, but yeah, it's still massive in the game, still massive.
Yeah, just the last thing for me then on this game, I think, and it's referenced in England as well. And they've had moments this tournament where they've been good at it, and moments when they've been less good, and that is discipline. They are going to have to get the discipline 100% right this week. They've still got players in there who give away cheap penalties every now and again, and it's specifically those players that are, you know, sometimes liable to do that. They've got to be spot on, because if we give away cheap penalties, I don't think we've got any chance whatsoever.
Yeah, they've got to play the ref. They've got to be as, and that's always difficult playing against South Africa, isn't it? Because if you're, it's the real cheap ones, it's the stupid ones that if they can cut that out, fine. Okay, if they do a couple of marginally high and hopefully there's no yellow cards when that, then okay, you can take that, but you cannot play against South Africa and not be fully committed because they will just get a tide and just roll over you. So it's a real fine balance. I think they've pretty much got that out of their game. We saw a little bit of it as we spoke about in the last pod around, you know, Curry, sort of, you know, kind of reacting, Laws reacting. South Africa may want to poke that a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised. But maybe England want that. Maybe England, as I said to you, they want a bit of a fight. They want to, you know, pull South Africa off their game, get them to think about different things. You know, Leicester were very much like that, just creating havoc and just be complete noses. Um, you know, both coaches are so different. Both really rely on stats and data, but execute how they use that very differently. Um, but yeah, it's gonna be intriguing. I reckon there's gonna be a few yellow cards, I think.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay. Time for predictions then, Alco. I'll go first on this one. Oh, heart says England. Obviously it does, but you can't go beyond South Africa on this. I think they've just been too good for too long. They've got too much strength. They're just dialed into their game plan, exactly what they're going to do. And I think they'll win. I think it'll be closer than people think, though. I think six. I think by six.
England by 8.
Who's gonna kick the points or score the tries in?
I think it's gonna be. I think England are going to be up at the end, and South Africa are going to be chasing, and England are going to get an intercept and score under the posts. And I think it's
Wow.
going to be. Trying to think of the most obscure player that Joe Mara will still be on, and he'll intercept and score under the post. No, I have a feeling. I've said it all along. I've got a feeling. Um, it won't be the final we all think it will be. Let's see. Let's see.
Whoa.
Go on, England.
Oh, unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay, people at home, what do you think? What do you think about the tactics that we've discussed today? Do you think there's some other major factors that we've missed or ignored? Love to hear it in the comments down below, and give the video a thumbs up while you're down there. And don't forget to subscribe if you aren't already to see all the daily vlogs and as we review these semi-finals next week and look forward to the final. So it just leaves me to say, Elko, thanks so much for your time again today.
Thanks, TT. Enjoy the weekend.
Thanks, mate. And to you at home, get out and play.